Hey, y'all. Hey, Jesus is Lord. Hey, the word works, but you have to take some time to work it. We've been looking at Mark chapter 4, which is the incorruptible seed. That means that seed always produces. Now, let me just say this to you. They found seeds in old King Tut's tombs and some of those other Egyptian tombs, been there for thousands of years. But you know, they planted them, and there was life in the seed, and it grew. There's life in the seed of the Word of God, but you have to plant it. Mark chapter 4. Your heart is the soil that you, the sower, sows the incorruptible seed of the Word of God if you want a crop of blessing. Now watch. You can plant the wrong kind of seed and you get the wrong kind of crop. The crop is dependent on the seed that you plant, not the prayer that you pray, and not what you're hoping for. Now, Jesus said this, take heed to what you hear. Proverbs 4:20 says, attend to my word. Deuteronomy 6 says, when you rise up in the morning, when you lay down and go to bed at night, and all during the day you talk the word, the rest of the time you talk about it whatever you want to. You are going to produce what you're planting down in your heart. Now watch this. Take heed to what you hear, for with what measure you meet. That's what Jesus said there in Mark chapter 4. He said, the amount of time you spend in the word, the way you plant it, the way you work at it. See, a farmer has to work at planting. Now, maybe tomorrow I'll get into the harvesting. But you've also got to guard your heart with all diligence and make sure that you plant the right kind of seed. Now, I do this a lot, but it comes to mind when I'm talking about seed time and harvest. My dad and I, of course, rest of the family too, but we planted a garden every year. And one of the things we used to do as kids, a long time ago, 55, 60 years ago, 2 or 3 nights of the week, we would sit around and watch television. You remember that little black and white television about that big around? We'd lay on the floor, we'd watch Milton Berle and Ed Sullivan and Gunsmoke and, some of that Bonanza and all that kind of stuff. As kids, I remember that. And one of the things Dad would do was he'd go in there and pop popcorn. He had this same old pot that he popped for years, and he'd put the butter in it or the grease in it, pour popcorn in it, and pop it, shake it over that fire, and pop that popcorn. We'd eat that popcorn, while we was watching television. So one year we were planting up in the garden. And so we're planting corn along with the squash and the okra and the tomatoes and beans. And so we're planting our 2 or 3 rows of corn like we always do. And I said, Dad, what's the difference in this and popcorn? I know they look different. He said, well, it's a different kind of seed. I said, okay, what do we do about that? He said, well, you can plant popcorn seed. I said, have you got any? He said, yeah, we got a bag of popcorn down there in the house. I said, let's plant a row of popcorn. He said, okay. So we planted a row of popcorn right next to the regular yellow corn that we'd planted. Well, they grew. We didn't think anything about it. Now it was a little different. The stalks were smaller, the ears were smaller, but it grew because we chose that year to plant some popcorn along with the regular corn. We planted that, and so it began to grow because we chose to plant the seed. Now, we made a huge mistake. That year at the harvest, we harvested the corn, and it was a little harder than usual. We couldn't eat it, man. It's too hard. There wasn't nothing you could do about it. When you boiled it, it was too hard. Everything that you tried to do with it was too hard. It was really not edible because it had cross-pollinated with the seed of the popcorn. I got a granddaughter here this morning. She wanted to get in this picture here. This is Valentine. This is the smallest of my 11 grandchildren. Say hello, y'all.
Hello.
Okay,
y'all.
you can go now. I'm preaching, okay? So, we harvested the popcorn also. Well, we tried to pop it, and it wouldn't pop. Because what had happened was when it cross-pollinated, it ruined both the crop, both the popcorn and the regular corn was ruined because they cross-pollinated. Now, I'm going to preach that. Take heed to what you hear. Make sure you're planting the seed of the Word of God and not mixing it with religion. Popcorn looked about the same. It grew the same. It pollinated the same. But it spoiled the other crop because they mixed. When Jesus said, take heed to what you hear, I'm going to say this in such a way that I believe y'all will get it. You've got to be careful that you don't also plant so much of that religious stuff that you've been going to. Down to that local church you're going to where, well, you never know what God's going to do. Or, well, God's got everything in control. And, well, you know. You plant that. It'd be like planting that popcorn right next to that good corn, and they cross-pollinate, and we ruined both crops. Saints, watch this. Take heed to what you hear. Now, you watch my program every day, and I appreciate that. But be sure not to mix that with a bunch of dead religion from Sister Doodad and Brother Dry Dust, because they'll tell you a bunch of stuff that's not true. So Jesus said, your heart's good soil. I believe that I have good soil and it's ready to produce, but I have to be extremely cautious to make sure that it's pure seed, it's good seed, and I want a good crop, so I choose what I plant. Gotta go. Have a great day. Don't mess up your crop by messing up the seed. So until I'm with you tomorrow, saints, remember all day, hey, Jesus is Lord. Thank God the word works.